So I am Jade Clark. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, Orange Mound in Whitehaven to be exact. I guess I would say I'm a food scientist by trade. Have recently fallen into education, so I'm now traveling the road less traveled as an educator, which we definitely should pay our teachers more. Should definitely pay our teachers more.
You said that like about a month into doing it, right?
We should pay our teachers. I felt like this after having to homeschool my daughter during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I felt like we should pay teachers more.
As a parent, I think I'm right with you on that, bro.
Yeah. So I say I'm a food scientist by trade because that's what I technically have my degree in. It's food science. I've done so many things though with agriculture. I've been all over the board. I've done product development, food safety, quality, education, and community work, urban agriculture, and farming. Providing technical assistance and consulting. I've done some of everything, I guess, and that's kind of why I love agriculture, right? It's just like it's with you every day. There's so many, like the opportunities are endless. There's so many things that you could do, so many directions that you can go in, and I never really saw myself being a teacher. And it's crazy because I feel like I've done several personality tests, and I did a spiritual gifts test or assessment, and teacher is something that comes up all the time. Like since I've been doing these things, which was like 2006, when I started these, when I entered into the corporate world, and everybody's like, oh, let's do a personality test so we can see how all of the people in the office need to communicate with one another.
So which ones did you do?
Myers-Briggs. I feel like I've done so many. I've done the Enneagram. I've done there's one, I think it's called like Stand Out or something like that.
Must be a newer one.
Well, I wouldn't say it was new because I did this one when I was at Coke.
Because I feel, the Myers-Briggs and then the
Myers-Briggs I've done a couple times. I feel like employers use that one pretty often.
Yeah, because I feel like that's the original OG.
Mm-hmm.
Or the OG, the original gangster.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's so funny because I remember one time, I think it was the Myers-Briggs that I took at Coke when I was working for Coke. And so it was our whole department did it. It was the whole research and development department for North America. And I was the only scientist that scored in the 90 percentile in so it wasn't Myers-Briggs. I can't remember which one it was, but it was it was like interpersonal skills. Like I was the only scientist that was in the 90 percentile. So they were like, who is this person? They called me out. Well, I didn't know at the time with my results. They were just giving an overview of like all of the results, right? They were just, and so I didn't know that I was the one person. They were like, yeah, we had one person, a scientist about like that really enjoys people. Who is this person? Because scientists normally don't do well with people and talking and interpersonal, right? Yeah. Accountants, they want to be by themselves. Which I'm an introvert, but I'm people driven. I love to help people. I like to. Hospitality is a spiritual gift. I like to, just fellowship with people and embrace folks. I like to love on people. I like to cook for people. And so that's very rare, as a scientist. But the good thing, like I said, agriculture, you can go in so many directions with it. I was able to move out of the lab and actually talk to people. My results from that particular test, they actually moved me in from a retail to food service so that I can communicate directly with customers. The 7-Elevens and, McDonald's and all those folks, because they were our, customer facing folks. So, just that put me out in in front of the people. And once I really got to do that and just, talk to folks, get to know like what they like, what drives your purchasing, like why do you buy a Slurpee? Why do you like it? I think that was probably like the most fun I had. And so I was also like, yeah, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should do something like with ag, but in the community or where I'm able to talk to people. And so now I get to, I'm working with all kinds of people, adults, kids, farmers, entrepreneurs, universities, academia, professors. I'm getting to work with all types of people. So it's been fun.
So, I know like you help with just like teaching at home during the pandemic with your daughter Jackson, she's here by the way. She's with us. She's doing a great job. But you've also done a whole lot of just like technical assistant work in between that time. So I don't know, I think I may have mentioned this earlier, but like Jade and I were coworkers for some time, and that's how we initially met. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about. So there's a lot to talk about in agriculture. I don't know what aspect of that do you want to talk about that has a lot to do with who you are and your passion.
I guess that would be the technical assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's I guess for me, what I love most, like I said, is the people.
Yeah.
So I loved providing technical assistance for farmers because I loved meeting the farmers. I loved hearing their stories, why they even started farming in the first place, what were their challenges, and how to best help them. I feel like, and maybe that's just a part of me and my career in research and development, because a big part of my job was to actually commercialize products. So I spent a lot of time in manufacturing. And so most food manufacturing places, it's all it's lean manufacturing. It's very, what's the root cause, how do we, it's because everything's going so fast, and any minute you're down, your line is down, you're not making money. So it's all about being productive and efficient, and my role, they rely so heavily on machines and machinery in manufacturing, but it's the people that operate them, right? And so there's just so much to learn from people about processes and systems and things like that, like learning the actual people that are going through the motions. Why do you have, if it's a system in place and it's not working, right? Why is that? You can't ask the machine, but you can ask the people, what's going on? Where's the breakdown? Why don't you like doing this? Why aren't you meeting your numbers? Oh, it's because this machine is faulty and I keep having to stop my line to fix it, or I'm always waiting on maintenance, or, and so when you talk to them, you hear and you get information that's not going to come up in the daily, operations report, right? Actually talking to people. And so that's where, that's what I like, I like researching and problem solving, but I like getting down. I like to hear people's stories and to better understand them. That's also something that I feel like I've inherited from my grandmother. So she had this ability to meet people where they were. She didn't have much, but for whatever reason, my grandmother had, 7 kids. They lived in a 2-bedroom well, no, not a 2 bedroom, a 1 bedroom house, a 1 bedroom shotgun house. But so 7 kids. They're in poverty. They live in Orange Mound. Nothing exciting about this place, but people were always over to my grandmother's house. Kids from the neighborhoods, kids that probably were more wealthy than my mom and her, family were. But it was just the way that they made you feel when you were at their home. And so I think that's something that just kind of stuck with me because my family is very diverse. Like some of my family grew up in poverty. Some didn't go to college. Some did. Some, went to jail. Some were involved in, crimes and, different things like that. And I just basically took all of these life lessons and people, and I found something that I could learn from them all. And you learn how to meet people where they are. You learn to have an understanding for people. When you understand what people are going through, then you can help them come up with solutions, right? But you have to have that level of understanding, and I think that's also too like necessary just for showing people grace and loving one another. You have to understand why people make the decisions that they make, or it's not just that Memphis has a lot of crime right now, right? And so a lot of folks are like, oh, the kids, they're just bad, or they don't have any guidance, or it's so many things. But when you talk to these kids, it's because they're not exposed to anything. They've not been outside of their neighborhood, so they don't know what opportunities are out there for them. They don't have anything to like live for or be excited about. They didn't see their parent feel passionate about doing something. They saw their parent struggling, trying to make ends meet or provide for them. And if you're hungry, right, if you haven't eaten in 3 days, you might go and steal some food or rob someone for some money so that you can feed yourself and your younger siblings. And I think that like all these, circumstances and things that we're all going through and living with, like everybody's going through something right now. I just think that if you have a level of understanding, that would help you in terms of coming up with ways to not just survive but also thrive.
So, I mean, I can definitely vouch for like your interpersonal skills. You're really, really good at that. No, obviously, because I didn't know you during your work in corporate America, but then just kind of seeing that outside of the, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, like warehouse or wherever it is that they manufacture stuff, but just kind of seeing it because in order to like really be effective and work with farmers in agriculture specifically, like people being comfortable around you, being able to trust you, I think that's huge, specifically because black farmers have been taken advantage of for so long, right? Like just systemically, like, government agencies that are supposed to be helping them and all this kind of stuff. So understandably so, they tend to be kind of like wary of people just kind of coming in and saying like, hey, yeah, we're going to help. What, as you kind of work with farmers and stuff like that, what are some areas that I think, or that you see is important to be able to address to like help farmers, but in order even to get to that, but people are not able to get to that level of conversation with black farmers because they don't know how to earn the trust?
I feel like any relationship is going to require some, trust, right? Or building that trust. I feel like when you talk to black farmers, right, when folks approach black farmers, it's usually from a place of, oh, well, let me tell you what you're doing wrong and what you need to do so you can be better. And that really can deflate a person, because you got to think about the average black farmer. They have probably been in at it, for generations. You know what I'm saying? And we are all aware of the significant amount of like land loss and everything else that has happened to black farmers. And so I feel like we don't give them enough credit to just, even with being able to sustain and hold on to their land. Obviously you've done something right. That you have had, I mean, we've lost millions and millions and millions of acres of land.
Isn't it like 90% or something since like the 1900s?
Yes. And so to be able to hold on to your land, I mean, after I'm talking about all kinds of illegal stuff that's been going on to get to, take your land away from you. You're not being provided funding so that you can maintain your operations. Or you've taken out a loan and you can't pay the loan back, things like that. You've done something right? If after all of this time you've been able to maintain your land and have a business. No, it's not. You're not at the capacity where you would like to be, but the fact that you're still in business, I think that says something, and I think that we should, applaud them for that. Farming is hard work.
Yeah,
like it is so hard. I went through, Farmer Academy, and even to this day, I don't necessarily call myself a farmer, and that's because one of a black farmer, I'll never forget, and he has, he's farming well over 10,000 acres for a fifth generation farmer. And he told me, he said, a lot of the farmers that are included in, the census and everything, they are hobby farmers. And he was like, no disrespect to the hobby farmer, but we have different cries at night. And I was like, you're right. Like, so I'm very careful about even using that term or calling myself a farmer, because I'm not farming full time. That is not my means of survival. That's not my income. My income is not based solely on me growing food. And that is very, very hard to do. And to base your whole livelihood on something that is so finicky, like agriculture. It's like, I'm telling you, one season I could grow carrots, and the next season I couldn't. It's like,
even it's like the weather determines so much
the
of what you're
weather. It could just be, your soil. It's so many things, right? That are so many factors, right? That are beyond your control as a farmer. But if you are, you continue to do this for a living for 7 years, I feel like that's something worth, applauding or recognizing that, hey, this person may know what they're doing. And it may not be that they need me to have another class, because that's what farmers always say, oh my God, I don't want to sit in another class, right? Because that's a lot of times all we have to offer, because we think that they're not skilled. And so it's like, oh, technical assistance. So it was kind of funny when I was doing the technical assistance, because when you say technical assistance, they automatically think like, oh my gosh, they're about to make me sign up for a class. And, and so it's already this hesitancy like around accepting technical assistance. But I'm telling them technical assistance is so many things, right? That's any kind of knowledge or support, that you may need. That could be marketing. That could be coming up with a business plan. That could be you have an ag education, a curriculum that you want to develop and implement on your farm, or you want to become a demonstration farm, whatever it is, agritourism. There's so many things that, different avenues and opportunities. And you just have to be creative. We just have to be creative. I think that's another something that comes with understanding, right? when you understand the plight, right, and the issues and what people are up against, then you can think more strategically or creatively about how to stand in the gap with them or help them address those problems. When you don't have any knowledge or any understanding of the day to day, then how can you help them to be? How can you be creative or innovative in terms of thinking about alternatives and alternative ways to address certain issues? For example, I was really tired of black farmers and entrepreneurs basically letting people pick their brains for free, or they were wanting to see, wanting to mentor other entrepreneurs, new and upcoming entrepreneurs or farmers, and so they would have these like little sessions or workshops or seminars, just things like that to educate the community and the next generation, right? But they weren't getting paid for these things, and there's money out here, lots of money. Like the U.S. gave out so much money to provide technical assistance and support to entrepreneurs, and but we're not benefiting, we're not receiving the support, and we're also not being paid to provide the support. Oh yeah, my technical assistance project was two-pronged. It was a two-pronged strategy. So not only was I going to provide technical assistance only to farmers and entrepreneurs of color, but I was also only going to pay people of color to provide the service. That way, I'm uplifting two groups, right? I'm giving these folks money to provide the same information they're going to provide, but now they have money in their pockets, and they can now see this as a revenue stream for them, because before they weren't getting paid to provide this information, but now they can see that they can get paid for doing this, and they can also help out their fellow, man or community member. So I think, but the only way I was able to think creatively about doing that and implementing that project was I had to be around enough people to know that this was a thing, right? Oh, let me pick your brain and let me see what you got, or, I'm trying to figure out how can I make a difference or impact communities of color. And you're coming to me as the expertise, right? As the person of color. Pay me. For the information that I'm going to give you. You're going to come up with some type of solution that's going to get you paid. So why wouldn't you pay me for my intellectual property? But a lot of that too comes with us not knowing, like people of color not knowing what all we have to bring to the table,
and just the value of what you have.
Right. We don't understand or know fully our value. That's period. That's just in agriculture in general, right? We don't understand our value and our contribution. We don't understand what we did for the U.S. agriculture. Like, that is the largest government entity, and it contributes $1 trillion. $1 trillion. So that's also another reason why I am making sure that the youth know about agriculture and opportunities in agriculture, because it's an industry that's not going anywhere. We can't live without it.
People gotta eat, right?
People have got to eat. You gotta eat. You gotta wear clothes. You're gonna always need shelter and homes, and so just understanding the value of our contribution to U.S. agriculture. I mean, we're a beast, right? We export more than any other country. When you think about our GDP, I mean, what U.S. agriculture is today is because of African Americans, And I want us to be truthful about that, and indigenous, groups. And I feel like everything that's like coming, it's all coming full circle right now. It's all coming back, regenerative ag, and all that is what George Washington Carver told us, back in the day. And CSAs were really just a means for black farmers to be able to get money to sustain their businesses. Really, it was a solution for black farmers to be able to sustain their businesses, get money up, front, and provide shares of the crops and feed their people, right? Feed their communities and also make a living. That was the solution. So none of this is foreign or is like innovation, right? These are things that we've already done, have proven and demonstrated success in. And so I just think that we should, we just need to value ourselves more. We need to pat ourselves on the back. I'm not saying that slavery was not a traumatic experience, but for me, I mean, I see that as like we built one of the greatest things in this world. And it's ours just as much as it is anyone else's, like this is ours. And I'm not a fan of building something from scratch and then walking away from it. And so, that should not even be an option. Like, we're not going to hand anybody anything.
Or even just like building something and then being convinced that it's not yours or that you don't belong to it.
Exactly. Like, I feel like we bring as much to the table as anyone else in terms of the knowledge. And like I said, we pay too much attention to, slavery and the physical, right? Like, it was free labor. Like, it was, physically, like, demanding. But we're not thinking about like the intellect it required to irrigation, to develop these systems, and these same systems that are being used today in manufacturing and distribution and all these other warehousing, all these other industries, right? These are systems, processes, infrastructure that we build. Like, our knowledge, our intellect, our ability to innovate, right? We built this stuff. So, I mean, we should take pride in that, right? We are the original innovators. I'm pretty sure we would have more patents if we knew the value of intellectual property in that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Jade, I also think that now is the time, because I think it's great. We kind of talk about like George Washington Carver and just like the great black innovators that have taken place in the past, but also I think being like now is the time for us to like add to that list of, right? So that way 50, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, they're mentioning names of black innovators that are like active right now. Mm-hmm. But it's just a matter of like, how do we exposure, opening up doors and getting them in there.
Exposure is definitely key. It's critical. I mean, I'm watching my mom now, and she's learning stuff about her history that she had never known. Like, she's 68 years old, and she didn't know anything about any of these stories. She didn't know about Black Wall Street, or she didn't know about any of these things. And so I'm loving now, that people are coming out, and even though they're trying to mute us again from telling our own stories and knowing our history, right? I think it's so empowering that we are, putting the word out there and telling our own stories. I really love that, and I think that that's critical, right? We have to know. I mean, I think that's the only way too that we stay resilient and empowered, right? I mean, you got to know your value, your worth. You got to know your worth. You got to know what you bring to the table, or else it's gonna get tough to stay committed or to stay present. You know what I'm saying? If you're constantly being belittled or made to feel like you're less than, then how can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps? And if you're constantly being told that, oh, ag isn't for you, or uh you can do all that but you're just wasting your time, or they're not going to fund you because you're black, or they're not, if you're constantly hearing all of this negativity and you don't understand, or you don't see examples, you're not exposed to like positive examples and success stories, then it's hard to believe that you can make it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That's my. I think I have it on auto shut off, and I forgot to turn that feature off. Okay, I was just about to close it. Dang it. Okay. Jade, you're really busy, but I just, there's just so much and so many layers of things that I still want to, kind of keep talking about, and I really do appreciate you taking time to come and talk. But I do want to invite you probably a couple times in the future to kind of keep this conversation going, and I hope that you do accept the invitation, because I think we've got to talk about these things. We've got to like delayer them. We've got to like demystify them. But I do know that like time is always like, a factor, and, we don't have like unlimited time. So thank you so much.
No, but anytime. I'm happy to talk about this kind of stuff. And right now I would say, in terms of like what's my priority, I think the education is my priority now. And ag education is the priority, because for one, the crime and the hopelessness for the youth in the city. And then also, I'm just tired of us presenting the only opportunities that we can present for our kids locally are go work at a warehouse, be a forklift driver, or be an athlete. And I don't like that narrative, especially while at the same time we are promoting ag and ag tech as a key industry for this area. You know what I'm saying? So why not give our youth an opportunity to participate in this key industry that's going to bring all of this money to the city and the region? We want it to be a reflection of the city and the demographics of people that live here, right? So why would we provide all this opportunity, $5 billion, Blue Oval project, and all these different things, and if the people in the city of Memphis, the residents, can't take part in that? I just think that that's crazy. And so it's all about, preparation, but making sure that we have a fighting chance, right? We're ready, we're in position, and our kids, our youth know, that they got options. Like, that's what I want them to know. Above all else, and ag has so many options, like I mentioned before. So it doesn't matter if you want to be a lawyer or a scientist or a technologist or whatever it is. There's a place for you in ag, and there's a real opportunity for you to impact your community in a real way because of all of the issues that are going on with our food system in Memphis and just globally, really, right? So yeah, I want them to know that they have options, and I want them to know that they can be the change and that they can come up with solutions for themselves. So I think we did a entrepreneurship workshop for some high schoolers in 2018, and one of the group of students, I'll never forget, their proposal or solution for food insecurity was a year-round community garden, and it was like an indoor, like a greenhouse, basically. And the name of their business was Saving Ourselves, SOS. And that is exactly what I want us to know and feel confident that we can do. We can save ourselves. We can make sure that we are fed and we are nourished in the right ways, that we are equipped with the knowledge and the tools and the resources to thrive, right? It's so sad that at every turn in the food system, people of color we're like fighting for our lives, like literally, you know what I'm saying? Fighting for our lives in the consumption end, with diet related illness. We're fighting for our lives to maintain our property, to be able to grow food. We're fighting for our lives to be able to distribute food and making sure that the communities and the people that look like us are getting the food. And in order for that posture to change, I guess, from survival to like thriving, we gotta change the narrative, and we gotta make sure that we are in a position to thrive. So that's what I'm committed to right now, and so I feel like it starts with youth. They're being impacted the most. Climate change is going to hit them way harder than it's hitting us right now. So I feel like we need to get them involved and make sure they're empowered. It's really sad when you talk to some of our youth here in Memphis, and they don't feel like they can make a difference, or they don't feel like they can, do anything or be anything other than what they see. And so that's why I'm just always trying to make sure I'm showing them some positive, somebody that looks like them, somebody that's successful that looks like them, so that they know it, and they really believe that they can do this, and they can see themselves.
And they can.
Yeah.
When you think about like just the African American contribution, like Orange Mountain, for example, you can talk about just African Americans in general, like with just not just slavery, but like Jim Crow laws and stuff like that. But then you think about places like Orange Mountain, or even the Black Wall Street. Orange Mountain functioning as a city within the city of Memphis, right? So much outside forces, right? Mm-hmm. But yet it was like a thriving community, right? I'm hoping that somehow just the kids get it. Like, this is like your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors. This is what they had to overcome, and this is what they've helped build the country that most of us, even for me, myself as an immigrant, I'm enjoying the fruits of that work. Yeah. Right. I mean, I can put it however I want, but even immigrants that are coming here, like, we're still enjoying part of that. But we just have to re-engage the youth and be like, this is yours.
Absolutely.
Own it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, we just got to change the narrative right now. I mean, this youth in Memphis are being treated like victims, right? They're like survivors, not necessarily thrivers, right? I mean, it's just when you think about everything that they're up against, and not proficient in reading and math and test scores, and then you got crime, they're facing hunger and food insecurity, and I mean, it's just a lot. That's a lot to deal with. I mean, you talking about adverse experiences, and it's not, I don't laugh, there are some things that, like I said, even as a Black person, I feel like we all have our privilege, and privileges, right? I know as an educated Black person that I'm more privileged than some other, one of my, counterparts, basically. And I feel like it's just, at this point, it's just how we all use our privilege. How do you bend your privilege, whatever that is, and the direction of justice. So I've been thankfully able to sit in a lot of discussions with a lot of higher ups, and I've been invited to the tables that some people want to get invited to. And it's what I do once I get to the table. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm already a place of privilege to be invited to the table, because there's several of us that aren't even, invited. But once I get there, what am I going to do with that privilege? What am I going to do? How am I going to speak up for those that didn't make it to the table, And for a while, it bothered me because I didn't want to be, I used to tell people, I'm not an activist, I'm an advocate, because you're just like, activist just sounds like angry, right?
That's what people picture like.
And you've always got to think about how people perceive you and receive you, right? As people of color, you're always mindful of that. And I've seen that even in the corporate world play out where I can't say the same thing that a white woman says. You know what I'm saying? Where she may be assertive, I'm aggressive. Or if I don't say something, it's like, okay, well, you're a little quiet, like, is it that you don't know? Now they're questioning your intelligence. So it's like, do I talk? Do I not talk? What, And so I feel like we're always trying to figure out how we should say, how we should act. And we're just so limited in being us and just being free. So I'm working on that too. Definitely being free and not, being afraid to say, I am an activist, because I believe that, I believe fairness and equity and justice. Like, I believe all of that. And I don't believe that, agriculture has been fair for us, but I'm hopeful that we can change that. But people gonna have to be real, like, we got to be honest about what's really going on. You can't keep sugarcoating like slavery didn't happen. It did. What did I think Florida's like, oh, slavery was useful. It was beneficial, right? Slavery was beneficial because we got all these skills. I was like, no, the skills we already had. That's why we were enslaved. Right? So I think it's just like, you got to be real. We have to be real about this. We got to be real about the people and what we're responsible for, right? All these nonprofits in Memphis, we're like, you're supposed to serve the people. And I think we forget that sometimes. And, and we just have to change that. We got to lead with people first. This has to be, driven by love and, understanding, and just showing all of, one another grace, right? Because like I said, we're all going through some type of challenge, or, like life be lifing. So we just got to, stick together. And Memphis doesn't have a good history of like sticking together. But I feel like with everything going on right now, like I said before, it's the only way, it's only up from here. I mean, I don't think we can go down anymore. But are we gonna get together and rise up together? That's the goal.
Yeah, I think if we're not careful, there's a little bit more wiggle room at the bottom. So we got to turn the ship around. But I know I took so much of your time. So I can wrap it, and then I think next time we gotta like sit 2 hours on the side and just have a conversation.
That's cool.
So that we were not rushing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amito. Anytime.